morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zanu PF's announcement that they want ED Mnangagwa to stay in power beyond 2028 to 2030, this so-called ED2030 agenda has galvanized and woken up Zimbabwe's sleepy and inactive opposition like nobody's business. Some of the silverbacks in the opposition, Tendai Biti, have been jumping around like a silverback gorilla, ready to charge and making all manner of threatening moves. You can just listen to him in an interview he gave recently. Sorry about that. Having some problems with technology here. Just listen to what this ED 2030 is all about.
Now, therefore, be it resolved by the delegates to the Zanu PF 22nd National People's Conference as follows. State of the party. On the state of the party, that whereas the 21st National People's Conference of Zanu PF held on 26 October 2024 in Bulawayo resolved as follows. In recognition of the extensive developmental milestones and the significant socio-economic progress achieved under the leadership of the President and First Secretary of Zanu PF, His Excellency Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, it is resolved that his term of office as President of the Republic of Zimbabwe be extended beyond 2028 to 2030. The party and government are therefore directed to initiate the requisite legislative amendments to give full effect to this resolution to ensure continuity, stability, and the sustained transformation of the nation. Noting that no notable steps have been taken to implement the above resolution, this conference hereby reaffirms this resolution and directs the Secretary for Legal Affairs and the Minister of Justice to ensure that before the 23rd National People's Conference, this resolution of the party is fully implemented.
And here is Tendai Biti's response to that announcement.
President Emerson Mnangagwa has said that you will not be extending this. Is this good news for Zimbabwe and the economy?
If he meant it, it would be the best news we would have had, but it doesn't mean it. Man is actually on a serious campaign to extend the term of office. Look at what Munyaradzi Machacha is doing. Look at what Daniel Gary was doing in March East yesterday. Look at what his cronies are doing. So they are on a serious campaign mode to extend, to push for a third term. And with the connivance of Chabangu and others, they control, parliament. So this is a disaster. They want to push this country to war. They want to push this country to Armageddon. I appeal to Emerson Mnangagwa, abandon this idea of a third term. Abandon this idea of a third term because it will lead this country to a war. But certainly, my plea and the plea of decent Zimbabweans will fall on deaf ears because the man is desperate. More so those in the courtyard, those that have been feeding from him, they are desperate to see that he continues. They're saying 2030, it's way after 2030. He wants the same 38 years that Robert Mugabe had. Fortunately or unfortunately, he doesn't have the 38 years that Mugabe had in 1980. So it's a disaster. This country is on a precipice. This country is on a knife edge because of these games that they're playing of trying to extend his term of office to 2030. It's a disaster, but unfortunately, one that will cause the unnecessary splitting of blood in this country. We lost over 50,000 people during the War of Liberation. We lost over 30,000 people during Gukura Wundi. We lost thousands of people during the birth of the MDC, the Land Reform Program. Enough blood has been lost in this country. We are losing millions of people, thousands of people through the soft genocide of hospitals that don't have medicines, of hospitals that don't have cancer machines. Enough blood has been lost at the hands of Zanu PF. Tinzireyo tsitsi, tiregerereyo, hapana chataka kutanzirai.
Well, a very impassioned appeal there. One has got to wonder, what is he trying to say? Is he going to stop Mnangagwa, this ED 2030? Or is he galvanizing his base to stop Mnangagwa in 2030 agenda? This is just a typical opposition rhetoric. He doesn't say how he's going to stop him, but he says he's going to confront him, he's going to fight him, and as if to say this is not going to happen. And no doubt there are many gullible Zimbabweans out there who will take this as a rallying call to fight. The truth of the matter is, we've had many situations in which the people have been conned into believing they're engaging in a fight, when in reality, they're engaging in the wrong fight, to say the least. Tendai Biti and his colleagues were in the GNU that failed to implement even one token reform when they had the golden chance to implement the reforms and finally dismantle this Zanu PF dictatorship. What we are having here is a situation where the same people who failed to implement even one token reform during the GNU want to appear as if they are now champions and they are going to stop this ED40 2030 agenda, when in reality, this is just the typical sound and fury signifying nothing, coming from a typical silverback gorilla jumping up and down and posturing and misleading the people. As much as Zanu PF has made this announcement, let's be clear, until Zanu PF come out with the details of how they are going to do it, there is absolutely no point in the people of Zimbabwe pretending that this is the battle line. We have got to confront Zanu PF on this so-called ED 2030 agenda. Zanu PF has done this in the past. The regime has again and again misled the people of Zimbabwe with the connivance, it must be said, of the opposition. Many people out there will remember the 2018 elections, how the opposition and Zanu PF were engaged in an endless battle of rhetoric over the biometric voting system. It became the central issue. Instead of focusing on the elections should be held so that they are free, fair, so we must implement the reforms, they were so totally engaged on the biometric voting system. Hardly a day would pass by without a statement from either SAC or the opposition on the biometric voting system. And yet at the end of the day, when the elections came, ZEC did not even use the biometric voting system. The equipment that had been acquired at the cost of 75 million US dollars was not even used. So it had been a decoy, which the opposition had taken up with their usual enthusiasm and passion of a puppy being presented with the thigh bone of an elephant. Of course, it doesn't even have the strength to crack any of that bone. All it can do is lick it and smell it. And yet that became the focus. This has repeated itself again and again in Zimbabwean politics. Zanu PF throwing the bone at the opposition, and the opposition responding with passion and dragging the whole nation along with them. And at the end of the day, find that that was just a decoy. Absolutely had no meaning. Zanu PF was not sincere in it and did not care about it either. We cannot have this situation where we keep on trying to focus the nation on the real issues. Zanu PF throws the bone at the nation and the opposition takes it up. Tendai Biti is trying to tell the people that this ED 2030 is not going to happen. And he is the man who is going to make sure that it doesn't happen. This is just nonsense. To start with, we don't know, because Zanu PF has not said anything how this ED 2030 is going to happen. And more significantly, we need to focus on the big issue. The big issue here is Zimbabwe has had 45 years since independence. And in those 45 years, we have had disputed elections. Zanu PF has rigged the elections. What are we doing to make sure that 2028 elections are free, fair, and credible? That is the number one task that we should be focusing on. What is Tendai Biti, the silverback, drumming his chest, doing about making sure reforms are implemented? And if not, making sure that people do not participate in another flawed election to perpetuate the dictatorship. That is where we should be focused on. And that is where we have got the best chance of coming up with a really meaningful change in Zimbabwe, instead of going round and round in circles. Because Zanu PF, as much as they would want to pretend this is the big issue to them, i.e., making sure Mnangagwa stays in power until 2030, it could turn out to be a decoy. And indeed, even if he is sincere about it, until he has come up with the details on what, we cannot engage him on that front. Let's concentrate on what we can do. And the front we already have well defined. Elections going ahead with no meaningful reforms implemented. That is where we should be engaged in. We should not be wasting our time on posturing. I believe Tendai Biti and many of his opposition friends are posturing. They want to give the people the impression that this is where the real fight has got to be, to stop ED2030. When in reality, the real fight is to end the case of rigged elections. The case of bad governance. Because even if we stop Mnangagwa staying in power until post-2028, if Chiwenga or Tagwire were to become the Zanu PF candidate and they rig those elections, we are still stuck with the Zanu PF dictatorship. The real battle is how to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. And we should not be misled by individuals like Tendai Biti, who have had the opportunity to end the Zanu PF dictatorship and have done nothing about it. And now want to appear to the nation as the great silverback fighting the ED2030, as if that is the number one issue before this nation. It is not. We need to focus our attention on what really, really matters, ending the Zanu PF dictatorship. Stopping ED staying in power for another 2 years and be stuck with the Zanu PF dictatorship is not victory. It's an empty victory. The victory we want is to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. And if we end the Zanu PF dictatorship, Mnangagwa would not be in power post-2028. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.